So the only thing I can liken this sort of experience for you is, so they came out with DLC for Doki Doki Literature Club.
Oh yeah, DDLC Plus, right?
DDLC Plus. People were like, "Oh, we want more DDLC type stuff," and so they were like, "Okay, let's just make actual visual novel stuff." Like, which is all pretty much DDLC Plus is the girls meeting each other. And I get that they were making like very like sweet, like just like this is how the girls met, this is how, and this is what would happen if they talked through their issues in a healthy way.
Okay.
And like didn't have Monica have Monica become sentient and have all this crazy shit happen.
So let me ask you real quick, just so I can understand it. I'm just gonna throw some shit on in the background while we're talking about this. But so is the whole concept of it that it's like a non-canon or like alternate scenario, or is it just like character building spliced in between to make it like hurt worse when the whole thing gets fucked up?
This is all before the main character even joins the club.
Oh, so this is like pre the game.
It is presumably the prequel story to how they all met each other.
Oh, okay.
Because in the actual game, it's like Natsuki and Yuri never really even talked to each other, and like, and in this version, it's like they have like meaningful like moments. So I think it's a little bit of both. I think the whole idea is that they meet each other, and then there's like this added little bonus of like moments that they have with each other before the club even really starts fully.
Okay.
Which again is fine, but it's a story that like they kind of made into, which I think would have been, you teased all this really interesting stuff about like Yuri being a cutter and Natsuki's dad beating her, and like Sayori wanting to kill herself, and like Monica having all these horrible insecurities and issues despite being like beautiful and popular. And really none of that is like touched on at all. It's like, it's very base level. It's like just it's the very vanilla version of these characters. Dan Salvato like says like, I almost made these, like, even in their art style, made them look a little more mature because how they act towards each other is a more mature.
Oh.
And they've, like, these characters have matured, even though it's a prequel story, these characters have matured from what they were in 2017 when he made the game, you know?
Oh, fair, okay.
But I think a more compelling story would have been a
toilet paper meme.
Is to reboot Doki Doki Literature Club and go through the game where you actually do try to woo each one of these girls. It's tricky because then it goes into this whole thing of like you being a savior or something. And I guess the whole point of the game is that like there's these awful things that are happening, and sometimes like you're not the answer to those issues, you know?
And is it even, because that wasn't what I was gonna like bring up, but it brings up the question that without the meta elements, is it even DDLC?
I think so. Considering a massive chunk of the game is just a regular visual novel, I think it could have absolutely worked. Where like you expanded upon each one of these.
Doing that much
parts.
Damage to Giganto feels so good after the fucking master trial. I'm sorry. Anyway,
I feel like you could have gotten a week to actually be like, okay, say you wanted to woo like Natsuki, you know, like, and on the first few days, like you're really, you know, giving her the poem that you think she would like, and then you start to hang out with her and have different situations with her, which is what a lot of like DDLC mods go into. So I get it.
Yeah.
And that's probably why they didn't touch on that. But there were a lot of like cool DDLC mods that I like looked up where it's like there's one where it's like from Sayori's point of view until
Oh yeah.
spoilers for Doki Doki Literature Club, which came out in 2017.
Oh no, don't tell me.
But it goes until, you know, she, you know, all the bad stuff happens with her.
Rope. Until she shoots rope.
I think if they were going to revamp Doki Doki Literature Club, I didn't want a prequel story. I wanted a story where you delved more into the characters of not like them meeting each other and them like working out their issues.
Not
I wanted
Suki, but
I
Sokka,
wanted
perhaps.
God damn it.
I'm so sorry.
I wanted a story where like you still got to play as the main character and still had like sort of your protagonist like airhead fucking, but like you grow as a character, and through your growth as like you go from this one-dimensional like insert yourself character to like you make decisions that then either help or hurt the issues that they struggle with. And because of that, you get certain endings and certain and like those things are more, say with Sayori, like maybe that terrible outcome still happens if you go down the wrong path. But in the actual game of Doki Doki Literature Club, it's very much just like, this is a set course, this thing is going to happen regardless of what you do.
You want more of like a visual novel to the visual novel.
Yeah, well, and it's like the message with that is that like regardless of what you do, sometimes like that horrible thing could happen. But there's a flip side to that, is like sometimes your actions do matter in that kind of situation. Sometimes the things that you say and do and the ways that you act will make an impact on somebody else's life. And so like it would have been cool to see the flip side of that, where like what the actual story was about is just like these terrible things are happening and no amount of like, oh, like I'm the savior boyfriend and like if I just love them they'll change and be. But
which is a poignant message, but also like, I mean, having loved ones to support you is the whole way you get out of shit.
Makes a massive difference, and you know, there's, you know, maybe he gives up on the love of somebody else to get them actual help, and like does some, you know, just interesting things like that could have really. I would have wanted more of that if they were going to put their time and energy into that. Into making more Doki Doki Literature Club stuff. They should have put it into you actually being able to like date the girls and try and navigate those things, you know? I just feel like that would have been a better use of them. Much like you were saying, like, you know, the fans wanted something different and then they gave something that wasn't satisfying to you. What I definitely wanted as somebody who's like a massive fan of that game is, and again, what they made was objectively great. It was like, it looked visually pleasing. The writing was still great, but it is not something I thought was necessary if you were going to make more DDLC stuff. Or just like the whole point of DDLC, I think, was to tease a different horror game that Dan Salvato wanted to make.
Right, I think so.
And I mean, for whatever reasons, I mean, like, I can't imagine the strain that something like that puts on somebody, especially like when you're just like a small indie team and then like it has such a fucking groundbreaking, like, I'm sure the like stress levels for that kind of stuff just are through the roof for that guy.
Absolutely.
And so I empathize, and I get why he hasn't made anything since, like, as far as that's concerned, because I'm sure the expectations were through the roof, and then he's like terrified to like make something that people aren't gonna like. But who knows? And he probably just got interested in other shit. You know how it goes. And who knows? Maybe there's other bigger things in the works. But I think if you were gonna make anything that was DDLC related, if you were gonna make a DDLC plus, I feel like it had to be you picking up where you left off in the story of like the actual visual novel with added things in between what was already there.
That's what I thought you were getting at first when you were describing it to me.
And I think, and there's a skip button for a reason. It's like, so you have the whole game again, and it's like, oh, I've already seen this, I'll skip it. And there's got to be some engine where it's like, this is a new thing, the skip button stops, you know? Like, it.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that's just something that's in those games, you know?
Yeah, that is a little wild.
So I feel like you insert things that just make the character development a little more compelling, and you add more dates, and you add more like interesting conversations between the other characters, and I think there could have been a lot of cool stuff done with it. But again,
damn, that sounds exactly fucking like what this DLC was to me. Wow.
Exactly. So like, so that was when I was trying to relate it to something, and so I empathize with you a lot more on this now that I can sort of picture.
No,
like,
you're absolutely right. That is what it's like. It feels like they were just wasting fucking the good faith and the potential of it. Well, not to say that it's bad, but it does feel like an absolute violation of the Geneva Convention, and also like what people were asking for. It's like, oh, we're gonna make this like thing for the fans, but then we're just gonna make it like not good.
Well, and so to be fair to both the makers, both Sonic and Dan Salvato and the makers of DDLC, so those were things that in both situations is stuff that we really wanted.
Yeah, that's true.
You really wanted something, I really wanted something.
That is true.
And what we got as far as DLC was not either of those things. I think that, and yes, Leaky, the game I think was supposed to be Portrait of Markov, which was what Yuri was reading. And
thank you.
Like there was just some cool little like things within that they teased, you know, and it was just interesting. And I think what, again, Yuri as a character I really like, because she was the most interesting character in my opinion. Not that she was the most likable character, but I thought as far as characters go, I was like, she was the most interesting to me.
Boobies.
Well, yes. She was also the most like physically appealing, but I related to a lot of like what she was about, which was like she's introverted and shy, but she's extremely passionate and really like can almost sort of lose herself in how passionate she is about certain things. And then
YouTubers and gamers understand that.
Yeah, and then she's super into horror and like interesting stories, and like that was just something that I really like was like, oh fuck, cool. Like it would be so cool to like add to that, you know? It would have been interesting to have it not be like, oh, Monica's messing with the game files, so they just go absolutely batshit crazy. It's like, because she says, like, I was only exacerbating these things that were already in them.
But that was cool. They were already there.
Yeah, so like, presumably if you, like, delved more into, like, Yuri as a character, you would have to navigate, like, those little weird, those weird things about her, you know? Which I thought was just a cool idea, and would have also fit what the people wanted, which was, like, the whole idea of, like, oh, they all have some sort of mental illness, and, like, we can, like, touch on that. Since they're all just meeting each other, it's like how an actual, which again is great writing, but it's how you would actually, like, talk with somebody who you're not totally friends with yet, but you're, like, being acquainted with. And so it's very surface level, like how they, like, sort of help each other out and, like, are navigating each other, which is cool, but again, not necessary when you know how fucking, like, all the cool shit you could probably do with these characters. It was just adding an unnecessary prequel that didn't need to be there. It was like I didn't need to know how the four of them joined the club. I could care less.
Yeah.
Make it a story about, you've made these compelling characters. You can't obviously do the whole meta thing because you already did that with the original game. Yeah. So why don't you make a game, if you're gonna make it a plus, like, make it a game about actually getting to know these characters on a deeper level and like learning about them and having the save states to be like, okay, so I've done that. So I've gone through all of Sayori's story. I've tried all these different scenarios with her.
Yeah.
Let's go do Natsuki. Let's go do Monica. And Monica you can't even woo in the game because obviously she's fucking Monica.
She's already wooed.
A massive point in the game. Yeah. But like, so to then, it also added to me that like in DDLC Plus, she's just a normal girl again. Like she's not this omnipotent.
That's wild.
Like so she's back to being one of the 4 regular girls, which only made me want to be like, then give us a game where you get a chance to like fucking navigate how she is and because I like her as a character too.
Yeah.
Even before like finding out that like she had all this, because again, as a character she's awesome once you figure out the whole picture and the story of the game, but she was still an interesting and fun character before you knew any of that shit.
Right.
And a lot of her stuff got tossed to the wayside to make for a bigger entrance later in the game. It was great to see the characters again. That was really it. You were like, yay, I'm back in this world. I'm back seeing these characters that I know and love. And then to have really like nothing happening, it's very like Natsuki has a panic attack is like the most drama there is. It's like I have a panic attack every other fucking day. Like
you ain't special, bitch.
but you know, like I feel like in DDLC Plus, like that was like the most dramatic thing that happened is she has a panic attack, and Yuri kind of like helps her out.
That again feels like something you should be doing as the main like I know like it's more realistic, it's not the main character. It feels like something you should be doing as the main character.
It feels like something that could have been a cool scene in the actual game where you experience that and you're just like, what the hell is happening? Like I thought we were having a good time and she has a panic attack and you deal with it, and that would have been cool. And then all this other shit happens, and then all of these little scenes could have still happened. But I feel like they needed to happen with you as the main character being a part of it. And
was
like
something of substance.
what it was you being Sayori or you being Yuri while you're talking with one of the other people. And it wasn't. It's just, again, it wasn't what I wanted.
Damn.
And like anybody hearing that, like put a big baby face over me, like crying about it, being a little bitch. But like
we need to clip this ourselves before they can do it.
If they were gonna do a plus, I needed it to be like you're back in it. You're Sayori's childhood friend that joins the literature club. You meet these other girls. These wacky shenanigans start happening, but then like there's trouble in paradise and because the drama elements are there. All the great story elements are still there regardless of the horror part of the game. You could cut out completely the horror part of the game and still have really compelling dramatic moments that could have been sprinkled in and could have and still had the characters have arguments and deeper rooted issues happening, all without the horror element and the sentience and the, you know, you didn't need the meta narrative to make the plus part of the game good, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough spot because I don't want to shit talk Dan Salvato or his team in the slightest because they made an amazing thing, and what they made with DDLC Plus is probably something a lot of people asked for. It's probably what a lot of people wanted was probably just a game where it touches on the girl's mental illness and it's healthy ways of them dealing with it. I think the way that should have went down and the way you could have written a more fun, compelling way that I would have bought in an instant. You redo the story from the beginning, and you get more in between time with each one of these characters, or you have the option to really fumble the bag with a certain character, or really fucking, you know, go the distance with a certain character, and like it shows how that relationship could progress or be you know, demolished, you know? I think I would have paid an arm and a leg for something like that.
I would have fucking amputated myself for that game.
So you know.
No, it seems like, and yeah, I mean, we're just like two fucking dudes on the internet, but it's not to like talk shit on people that we really like.
Presumably, there's a lot of people that are just like, this was so sweet, and this is exactly what I needed, and it's so good seeing these characters again. And like when I started, I was like, I agree. This is nice. This is a nice little thing. What upsets me is the idea that this is all they're ever going to do with it. They made this amazing thing that I really cared about, and then they added a little prequel that allows you to sort of get to know a little bit of the backstory of before the main character enters. And then there's been absolute fucking static noise about anything else.
Yeah, it didn't seem like there was no thematic reason.
No other projects in the works. No talk of like, okay, well, we did this. It was just they made that, and like that'll sate everybody, and like we're just not gonna make anything else, and it just sucks. And like again, I get it, because I'm not the one making the game, and like have all these expectations on me. I get that with an indie developer team, like, you know, you're not making a lot of money. You're doing this because it's a passion project. And like what I'm saying is that DDLC was so good that I think they could have made enough money to really then dive into exactly what they wanted. Yeah. And that's a crying shame to me. And maybe that's not right. Maybe they still made enough, like, who knows? I don't fucking know. But like I feel like what would kill me is to know that they weren't able to do it because of like budget constraints, and because like people had to back out of the project, and like because it's an indie thing, that like it kills me to think that, like, you know, such a good talented team couldn't make something else because of those kinds of constraints. It's like, who knows what the fuck they make next, or if they do anything at all. Yeah. But what kills me is it's like, okay, so if you make DDLC, I would have loved if they would have stayed the course and made Portrait of Markov, or whatever sort of spin-off they were trying to do with that. Yeah.
Or like the full game.
Or whatever they were trying to tease. I wish they would have really like just dived into doing that, and like really put the efforts and energy into that. Or if, okay, you put your energy towards more DDLC content, that's fine. Make it what I've been talking about this whole fucking time. Like make it something where you're with these characters again, getting to actually fucking build different relationships, and make it an actual visual novel, and keep what is good about anime visual novels, which is the idea that, like, yeah, you're in like a harem situation, and you're trying to woo each of these cute girls that obviously likes you, but there's dramatic elements to it that make it so much more compelling, and makes you go like, wow, this story like really sucks me in, and like I care about these characters so much more now, and they don't seem as two-dimensional as they did at the beginning, because there's all this stuff with their family, or the stuff with their mental health, or so that's what I feel needed to happen to make it worthwhile for them to. I mean, they dropped it in like 2021, 2022, like, and from 2017 to then, nothing happened from that team.
Going back to that thematic relevance, because they had great themes in the first game and didn't expand upon it in Plus, just like with Sonic Frontiers DLC.
Absolutely. So with that, Mitch, I mean, we went on this tangent for a fucking hour.
I think this
I'm glad
needs
we
to-
did. I'm glad
Yeah.
we did because I actually really like enjoyed sort of airing this out and finding why I felt why I felt
I love
about
that
these things.
I love that right after like the game ended, like during the credits, we started going on like a really meaningful tangent, and that we just had to pad out with other shit. It's so on fucking brand for us.
I hope for the future that like, and much like with Sonic games, like I hope that like these creators realize that like, much like Adventure Time, like if you can really get like a cool, interesting lore point and like really. Like, you can make it concise. Like, I mean, like, you could cut out half of Adventure Time and, like, half of its filler episodes that are, like, fun and interesting, and sure, there's little... You could do that lore in 5-6 seasons, I think. If you really wanted to, like, just make the show about that. But Cartoon Network shows, it's like, you know, they want a bunch of goofy episodes about this, and they want marketable this character to do this thing. And so I get it. I get it with all that. But like you look at Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood,